All right, what's up, guys and girls? How's it going? I am Is There No One Else? I'm bringing you part five of how to make a build, of part five of my how to make a build series. I thought I was done with part four. I started working on sets for a couple different classes today, just looking things over, comparing, contrasting, because I've been at a roadblock with one of my classes, and I don't want to say what it is yet until I get stuff tested out. But um, if you guys haven't watched my other parts of my series, like if you're interested in making your own builds, I start off at the beginning, of how to go about making your own build, which is copy somebody else's build first. Get to know the class, because know that you want to start somewhere with a build that's good, because it's a little bit easier to eventually figure things out when you know that something actually works. So if you don't know a sorcerer, go look up a well-known PvP sorcerer on YouTube, copy their build, and that way you know that it's not the build that's causing you to die, it's your own skill level. I always recommend copying a build first, because it helps build the starting the foundational blocks of learning the class. With that being said, I dive into step two, comparing and contrasting armor sets. I go into some of the math on stamina versus weapon damage, magicka versus weapon damage, what penetration is, how to compare sets, like what's valuable. And then my part four video was, more or less how to create your own build, how to tie everything together. Part five, now after we're 2 minutes in, part five, you have now made your own build. Your build kicks ass, you love it, but either one of three things or four things that happen. A, you're bored of it and you want to play something new. B, it's so good it's now become the meta, and you don't want to be known as a meta humper. You want to create your own stuff. C, you read the patch notes. They're taking away some specific part of your build, and it's just ruined you emotionally, and you can't think past the fact that your entire build's ruined without, testing it and knowing, that maybe things are different. But now you just say, fuck it, I'm going to do this new class, whatever. And four, you just are interested in trying to play a new play style. You want to see if you can figure something out and make something work that nobody else has ever made work before. So this video is going to be more theory oriented. This is going to be a lot more in depth than my previous videos, because I had to start somewhere. But in general, when you're making your own builds and you're coming up with this stuff, you reach a lot of roadblocks, because when you're starting off with a build, the possibilities are endless. There's infinite possibilities, because there's so many armor sets. And I'm going to discuss my two favorite sites for when I go about starting to theory craft a build. This is the first one. But if you come onto the ESO wiki, there's so many armor sets in the game. There's so many options to choose from to start off with. And that's the thing, is a lot of these armor sets, absolutely, they're not very good. And so you start weeding it down. And then when you run one armor set, typically a damage one, it then kind of pigeonholes you into running another set, because now you need recovery. And that's why I've been posting, part of the reason why I've been posting quite a few Twiceborn Star builds, because, if you guys watch those builds, none of those sets are recovery sets. I'm running two damage sets. I'm getting my recovery from somewhere else. I'm getting it from my Mundus Stone, and I'm getting it from my food. So, breaking out of the typical box of theory crafting that's one of the ways to do it. Don't look at it as, oh, I need a sustain set now. Look at the broader picture. How do I sustain? So that's just a small option, but as you make a build and as you're playing a class, you just slowly start to narrow down your choices. And eventually you'll get to a point, and everybody gets here, guys, okay? I've gotten here, everybody gets there, where all of a sudden they're weighing the pros and cons of all the other sets, and they're stuck on their build, and they can't think of any other option that's absolutely the best thing for them, and they're frustrated. because there's nothing else better for them. A few things that I've heard from friends and people I have played with, when they nerfed Selene and Viper, somebody told me that Nightblades will not have enough burst without Viper and Selene, which, if any of you guys have played PvP, that's absolutely not true. I had somebody else tell me that sword and board stamina builds will no longer exist and be able to kill people without Viper and Tremor Scale working the way that they used to. And so because of that, those builds are useless, they're not worth running. If you guys have watched some of my PvP builds, I don't run Viper. It seems to work out pretty well for me. But, people liked the burst, they got used to the burst, and they couldn't adjust past it. And that's fine. What was the other one I was going to say? I can't remember. But when you're stuck at a loss and you're just not sure which route to go, treat this like sex, guys. This is just like sex. Sometimes you got to approach it from a different angle. You got to look at it from a different point of view. You got to attack it from a different point of view. Take that for what it's worth. But sometimes you just get stuck and your original preconceived notions are all there is, and you end up settling. And so what I recommend doing in those situations, guys, take a day, take a break, take 2 days, 3 days, just stop thinking about that specific class, that specific build, and go on to this Elder Scrolls Online wiki and just start looking at sets, okay? I'm just going to randomly name a class, okay? So let's say Dragon Knight, okay? We're going to go Stamina Dragon Knight, okay? Well, we'll probably want to run, I run Sword and Board in 2H, right? So we're going to get rid of all the preconceived notions of what I'm running on my Dragon Knight, which is, Morag Tong and 7th Legion, which is a great setup, by the way. We're just going to look at the options, and we're going to pretend like every option is available to us again, and we're not going to narrow our choices right away. So let's see what we have. Archer's Mind, that's a Nightblade set. Bark Skin, that's kind of a stamina set that applies to everybody. Bone Pirates, very useful set, very good for everybody. We could probably run 5 Bone Pirates. If we run 5 Bone Pirates, that allows us to run another damage set. We could run 2 damage sets with this, and we could have enough recovery on a Stam DK, because Stam DKs don't need enough recovery. And you start filling in the blanks. Crusader, increase the duration of dodge, chance bonus, or roll dodge. We're not roll dodging a lot on a Sword and Board Stam DK. We don't need that. Dark Stride, reduce the cost of sprint and sneak by 50%. We're a fucking tank, bro. We're not going to run this shit. Draugr Hulk, that's tempting. Max Stam builds, Redguard. Redguard really benefits off of a max stamina build. DKs in general really benefit off of having a lot of max stats, so this is an option. Fjord's Legacy, reduce the cost, increase the movement speed, bonus to sprint. We're not sprinting, we're a tank. Hawkeye, we're not running a bow. Werewolf Hide, when you take damage, you generate 5 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. Okay, we generate, when we use our ultimate as a DK, we generate resources. So not only is this an ulti-gen set, which allows us to get more burst because ultimates are very bursty, it also builds into our sustain because we are a Dragon Knight. So maybe we can run this. Well, what about, how is this, let's compare this to Bone Pirates. In what way could we run this over Bone Pirates? Can we run both? Do we want to run a medium armor build, or do we want to be more tanky? I'll scroll down a few more. Minor Expedition, we're a tank. Bow ability, doesn't matter. Lucky's Focus. Reduced healing, makes the set suck. Leviathan, increased crit. Not as useful for a DK, but kind of tempting. Marksman's Crest, bow abilities doesn't apply to us, but reduce cost of your stamina abilities by 5%. Okay, maybe this is worth looking at, because reduced cost really does come in handy on a DK to allow us to get to our ultimate and then pop our ultimate and then, sustain even better. Morag Tong, like I talked about before. DKs have a lot of poison abilities. We can stack a lot of poison abilities. Maybe this would be a useful 5-piece set. How does this work? Maybe we should test it. When you take melee damage, you deal 2,000 poison damage to the attacker. Okay, well, how would this work? You know, it only applies to melee damage builds, but it's 2,000 poison damage to the attacker per second when you take damage. Would this be useful outnumbered in a fight? You know, could we run this on sword and board? Is this better than the other options? Because this looks tempting because it's poison and it coincides with being a tank. Looks kind of useful. Poisonous Serpent, yada yada yada, Oblivion's Edge. We're not filling soul gems. We're selling soul gems to the other two factions so that they can revive their buddies. Ranger's Gate, stamina recovery, weapon crit, stam. Anyways, you guys get my point now. All of a sudden, when you start looking at sets and how they fit into your class, and you look at it from an open mind and not just decide I need to run Werewolf Hide, or if I run Werewolf Hide, now I need to run a damage set. Look at all the options. What do all these things do? Some of these sets have a very strong ability attached to them, and they're very powerful. And so sometimes that set is strong enough to where it can throw out all of your preconceived notions, and you just go back and you reevaluate. A perfect example of this is Shadow Walker for a Nightblade. While you're sneaky or invisible and are not moving, heal for 2,000 health and 2,000 stamina every second. When you are cloaked as a Nightblade with Shadow Walker, that is 4,000 stamina recovery. You don't need to build in recovery if you're running Shadow Walker, and you can get into stealth. So you can pump out max damage. When you run low on stamina, you go into stealth, you stop moving, and then boom, instantly to full. This eliminates, running a 5-piece recovery set, because now you can run this on your back bar. So it's kind of like Lich, but it's like a back bar Lich for Nightblades, stuff like that. I know I'm trying not to ramble at this point, but everybody gets there, and I was just there literally about 30 minutes ago looking at sets for my build, and this kind of came to mind for me. And you just kind of want to just open your mind and look at different sets. And really, what I can really recommend for you guys is, if you have a build that you like, try to make something completely different. Do not put those two sets together. So, as an example, 7th Legion and Morag Tong on my Stam DK. If I wanted to make another Stam DK set and I wanted to break the mold of what I like to run, I am not going to run those two sets. Those two sets I'm throwing out the window. I'm going to try and find a completely different way to run the class, or run a stamina DK. And we could still run sword and board, absolutely. So maybe we run, if we're not going to run those two, what are our options now? And we start looking at these sets and we start looking to see what they do. This Night Terror one is kind of interesting. When you take melee damage, you deal poison damage. Okay, well, if we want to run that, we could run that on our sword and shield bar when we're block casting. We could run 3 jewelry, sword and shield, and then we're going to run 5-piece heavy because we want to be a tank. Okay, when you deal damage, you have 50% chance to deal an additional disease damage. Disease damage reduces healing. It's also a proc. Maybe this would be useful. Maybe this is worth testing. What's the one I wanted to pull up that would coincide with this? And I'm not saying this is good, guys, because I haven't tested it. But when you take damage, you have a 10% chance. Oh, that's not that one. Where's it at? Hopefully I can find it rather quickly. Here it is, Leeching Plate. When you take damage, you have an 8% chance to summon a cloud of leeching poison to the attacker that deals 1,200 poison damage in a 4-meter radius every 1 second for 5 seconds. Okay, so now we're stacking two different sets that both proc off the same thing, which is taking damage. The one deals it to everybody in the area. This one puts a circle down. Now we're talking about 3,200 poison damage every second. That seems like a lot with our other skills. Like now, maybe we can turn this into we're super tanky and we hold our ground, and once people start taking damage and they don't heal, then we leap on them, and that's what we do to these melee attackers. And I'm not saying these are good, guys. I haven't tested those two sets. I'm just saying, like, all of a sudden when you open your mind to to different sets, you can start seeing different options. And so then all of a sudden you can create a new build, you know, something more creative, something that's not the meta, something that you can call your own, you know, something that's effective. And you could be, hey, I'm the first guy that's made Medusa work. You know, I'm not. I think Medusa sucks, to be honest, but that's a preconceived notion. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, yeah. So once again, I'm gonna try and close this off here, but just really approach it when you want to make a new build. Just really look through all the sets. Sometimes you have to look through them again, and you have to see, you know, what they're providing. And some of them are just very powerful, and maybe you can fit them into a build in a way you hadn't thought of before. Maybe now, you know, what you thought 6 months ago when you first made your build, you know, you've played other classes now, you've seen how other things function, and all of a sudden you have a better understanding of the game. Go look at these sets again, and then all of a sudden something's going to pop out to you, and you'll be able to make another build, or at least come up with an idea. So for me, like what I just literally rattled off, leeching, plate, and the other set, maybe I go test this. Maybe this is something that's worth testing and being, you know, it doesn't seem like it'd be too bad. You know, maybe this is enough pressure. This is a lot of healing taken too. You know, Stam DKs don't need a lot of recovery. We don't need to run a recovery set. If we wanted to, we could run like Blood Spawn. That would work. We could run the Asylum 2H on the back bar, so when we execute people, we generate ultimate that way, which would build into our resources. So we do damage, blocking, generate ultimate, we leap, we execute, and then we generate more ultimate that way. And then we go back to doing the exact same thing. Maybe that would work. I don't know. I haven't tested it. Maybe it's worth testing. So then what you do is you go from Elder Scrolls Online Wiki to this build editor, which is another wiki which I've discussed on my YouTube channel before. I personally love this site. It just allows you to go in here, and I already have a how to run this, but I could plug in everything on here, and I could put on those two sets, and I could just see what my stats are, you know. And so this new build idea that I just came up with, I plug into here, and then I open another tab, and then I put in my old build, and I compare and contrast the stats. You know, I put in the skills, and I see what my skills hit for, and I go, okay, well, are these procs going to make up for the fact that I'm missing out on damage, or that I'm missing out on recovery? You know, are they close enough to where it's worth testing? And then this is where you can really, this will save you so much gold and materials to just come on here and test it and like put in all of your stats. And then you could figure out if it's worth actually going out to get, because leeching plate, if I remember correctly, it's Imperial City Prison, as an example. You know, you have to get keys for this. So is this worth investing keys in this set? Is it worth investing 50 transmutation stones for retrading every possible piece that you might want? I don't know, you know. But that's how you start rethinking and breaking outside of the mold that, you know, you kind of created 6 months ago, and you haven't really thought about it since. So hopefully this was informative for you guys. Hopefully this was interesting. You know, I'm not doing these videos. I'm doing these videos to help you guys. You know, I love seeing creative builds. I love seeing people run something unique, and especially when I get killed by it, I'm like, holy shit. Like, that guy just used that on me. That's awesome. You know, that's really cool that when people really get creative about different builds and how they synergize within a group or small scale or, you know, in the sewers, whatever. So if you guys have any questions, if I didn't make my point well enough, please respond in the section below. Once again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.